All right. How many of you excited for week 2 of the Youth Will Win? Come on, where you at? Man, I'm excited to hang out with you guys and excited to jump into this series. This is a cool series for me. This is an exciting series for me because I believe in youth. I believe in you guys. Look at your neighbor, tell him, say, I believe in you. Come on, tell him, I believe in you. That's why I do what I do, because I believe in you. And I believe that the years you're living right now are not to be wasted. They're not just to be suffered through or just to barely get by, but I believe in you. And so I believe that you can make a difference in this world, and that's what this whole series is about. And so I'm excited to jump into this. I used to have this car that from time to time it would have some trouble. And anybody, if you're a new driver, or anybody have like your first car and let's just say it's not the best, okay? Anybody have a car that's like, it's not the best, like there might be some issues. Or anybody have a friend that has a car that you're like, I'm never riding with you in that thing. Like, I will not be caught dead in your old jalopy looking something. Like, I am not riding. It looks like a hearse or something running down the road. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, not riding in that thing. So I used to have this car, and it was giving me some trouble, and it just wasn't running right. And so I went to this guy in the church because I was broke and couldn't afford to like pay a professional. And so I went to a guy in the church, and we start tearing the thing apart. And man, he's just like, yeah, I think it's this. And I should have known when he started Googling it that I was in trouble. So we start Googling like what it could possibly be. How many of you know in the same way that you never Google like your sickness? Because immediately you're going to die like tomorrow, right? Like the minute you're like, I got a runny nose, oh, of course, I'm going to die tomorrow. Like that's what Google always tells you. It's kind of the same way for cars. It's like, yeah, like I think it might be out of gas. Nope, it's done. You like tear it apart. That's kind of the way that this situation was. We start tearing this thing down, and I'm looking at his garage, and there are parts everywhere, car parts everywhere. And I'm pretty handy, but I'm not handy enough to like, at that point, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like there's no way I'm going to be able to put all this back together. And literally, I'm going to have a car with like 3 tires, no fender, and like just pray to God that it'll even start. And so we are tearing this thing apart. Car parts are everywhere. And come to find out, as we put it back together, all of a sudden, come to find out, we get it all back together, and the problem is still there. And so finally, I broke down, and I took it to an actual mechanic who like knows what he's doing. And he's like, oh, yeah, there's this little electrical sensor that if it goes bad, it's going to cause you big problems. But it's like $30, and I can switch it out in about 7 minutes. Do you guys know how upset I was when I found that out? That literally I had spent like weeks tearing this thing apart and putting it back together, and then come to find out it's a $30 part that can be switched out in 7 minutes. Anybody, have you ever found out, like you ever had like a huge problem and you found out that in reality it can be fixed with a very small solution? Huh? Have you ever had this huge thing happen? You're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden you come back to it and you realize, this is like a very small solution can fix this entire thing. Sometimes that's how it is in our life. Sometimes we look at the world and we look at situations, we look at ourselves, we look at our families, we look at the things around us, our school, our society, and the situations of our current world that we're living in, and we look at it and we go, I have no idea how this is going to work. I have no idea how I can make a difference. I have no idea how I'm going to fix this. And sometimes we don't need to look at how big it is, but sometimes it's just a very simple, small solution that fixes very big problems. One really cool story in the Gospel of John, in chapter 6, we see this actually be exactly the case. It says, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on the mountainside, and he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. And when Jesus looked up, and he saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, where are we going to buy bread for all these people to eat? Look at verse 6. It says, he asked this only to test him, for he had already had in mind what he was going to do. This is a lesson that I try to tell my sons, and you may have, your parents may have also told you this. And if you haven't learned this lesson, you should probably learn it pretty quickly. When your parent asks you a question, 99% of the time they already know the answer. They want to find out if you're going to be honest with them. Anybody ever found that to be true? And because then you try to lie and they're like, right? That's kind of what happened in this situation. If you'll learn, sometimes leadership, parents, coaches, teachers, they're going to ask you a question that they already know the answer to. And that's exactly what Jesus did. It says there's these thousands of people come following Jesus over to the hillside, and they're hungry. It's lunchtime, and Jesus goes, "Oh no, what are we going to do, Philip? How are we going to feed all these people?" And in the back of his mind, he's like, "I already got a plan, Philip. I'm just messing with you. I want to see what you're going to say." Sometimes the things that you are most stressed out about, the things that you think are impossible, the things that you look at and you're like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. I don't know how. You feel like God's asking you, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do? I don't know, Jesus. I don't have a clue. And Jesus is in the back of his mind. He's going, hey, I already got this planned out. I just want to see what you're going to do. I want to see how you're going to react. Are you going to react in fear or are you going to react in faith? Are you going to react with courage? Are you going to trust me? Are you going to believe me? Are you going to give this to me? Or are you going to try to scramble and do it on your own? Sometimes in life, the things you're looking at that seem impossible, Jesus has already got it all worked out in the back of his mind. That's exactly what happened here. Can you imagine Philip, though? Jesus is like, Philip, there's 5,000 people here. There's 5,000 people here, Philip. What are we going to do? Philip's going, I don't see a Panera. I don't see, there ain't Chick-fil-A. It's on Sunday. I don't know, maybe it was. If that's the case, just go to Cane's. It's better anyway. Just saying, guys. Hey, don't be mad at me because it's the truth, all right? He's looking around. He's going, I don't see a Panera Bread. I don't see any way we're going to feed these people. This one looks like it's getting kind of hangry. She's giving me that look like she's about to start gnawing on my leg or something. And you know what? Listen, you know how it happens when your mom starts getting hangry? Anybody know? Can someone just feed her so that we can all survive? Slide that woman some carbs and calm her down a little bit. That's kind of what's happening. People are starting to freak out a little bit. They're looking at us. What are we going to do? Here's the crazy thing. Jesus knew Philip didn't have the answer. Jesus knew that Philip had no way of feeding those people. Jesus knew that Philip was completely incapable of fixing the situation. He knew that Philip was unable to do it. He was testing Philip's faith and Philip's obedience. Look what Philip said in verse 7. It says, Philip answered him. He says, well, it would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for for all these people. Just for each one of them to have a bite. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. At this point, Andrew had freaked out. He hears Jesus talking to Philip, and he's just like, don't come to me next. I'm going to come up with something. So he goes out in the crowd, and he finds this little boy who's got like a little Filet-O-Fish sandwich from McDonald's. He's got a little bit of bread, a little bit of fish. He's got 5 loaves and 2 fish. This boy just packed his own lunch. He's the only smart one in the whole crowd, apparently. He had packed his lunch, and Andrew's like, what you got right there? He's like, I got a little bit of fish, a little bit of bread. Andrew's like, can I have it? He's like, sure, take it, I guess. Just take it. And so he takes it, and Jesus is like, what are we going to do? Andrew's like, I got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then he looked around and realized that there's 5,000 people there, and he goes, but how far will that go among so many? That gift of that little boy's lunch at that point seemed so insignificant compared to the size of the need. How the size of that little boy's lunch in comparison to the size of the need and to the size of the problem, it seemed like it was such a small thing that there's no way that this little bitty boy's lunch is going to take care of 5,000 people. And unfortunately, in many of us, that seems to become our excuse as well. Because we look at the situation in our school or in our family or in our society, in our world. We look at all the problems and we look at the size of the need and we look at the size of the issue. We look at the state of our world and we honestly look at ourselves then and we go, how is this little bitty life of mine going to make any difference in a problem this big? How can one person honestly change an entire school? How can one person doing what's right honestly make a difference in a family? How can my little bit of contribution make even a dent in the size of the need in our world? I can't make a difference. I'm too young. My voice won't matter. That person, I could talk to them till my mouth falls off and they're not gonna change. I'm just one person. This world is so big and I am just so tiny. My family, Pastor Chad, listen, you don't understand my family. They've been like that forever. And I can do anything, I can go to church and I can pray and I can do this and I can try to do everything that's right. But I'm telling you, you don't know my family. That problem is way too big for just me to make a difference. This little bit of money I have, you think this little bit, my little old measly allowance is really going to make a difference in the world hunger? My little old measly amount of money that I make at my part-time job after school, you really think that that's going to help someone? Nah, it ain't that much. And so what we do is we begin to compare the size of what we have to the size of the need around us. How many of you would agree that if you look at our world today, you see a world that has a big need? There's a need for Jesus. There's a need for truth. There's a need for freedom from a lot of things. There's a need in our society. There's a need in this world. And it's so easy to look at those needs and then to look at our life and just to feel so small. Well, I'm not smart enough to make a difference. I'm not influential enough. I don't have enough followers on Instagram. Even if I did post about it, only like my 300 friends are going to see it. It's not going to make a difference. Not strong enough. Not good enough. They're going to know that this isn't really me. I'm not brave enough. Man, this person, they could talk in public and they could raise their voice and their voice could matter. But me, I'm just 5 loaves, 2 fish kind of person. Can I tell you this? God isn't looking for people to be enough. God is looking for people to believe enough. He's not expecting you to be enough to fit the need. He's simply asking you, will you believe enough that your little bit can matter? Will you believe God enough that you will trust Him with the little bit that you have so that He can make it more? The problem is that we spend our lives trying to be enough. I got to get better at myself. Once I get my life straight, then maybe I can make a difference. Once I kind of get my ducks in a row, once I do this, then I will be enough and then I'll make it. Once I get more followers or once I get more influence and once I become this person that I'm trying to become and accomplish my goals and have all this, then I will be enough and then maybe God will use me. But I'm telling you that you at 12 years old, 13 years old with no armpit hair yet, God still has something for you. You at 16, 17, 18 years old that's trying to figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do, and you're navigating the last few years of school, God's got a plan for you, and you may feel small and you may feel insignificant, but stop trying to be enough and just believe that God is enough. It's not about you, baby. And I know you don't like to hear that because we live in a world where it is about us. But look at your neighbor and say, it ain't all about you, baby. Some of y'all need to hear that. It's not about you. It's not about you. My question is this: what would change in your life, in your world, in your family, in that classroom, on your team, if you stopped trying to be the answer and you just truly believed that Jesus was the answer? What if you believed that your words actually made a difference? How would you use them? What if you truly believe that even your words, so small, so insignificant, just a simple phrase, if you really believe that it could change the course of someone's life, if you really believe that your words of encouragement or love or empowerment that could change someone from ending their life to living their life, would you use your words differently? If you really believed in the power of the words that you have, that you could give, it's not going to matter. No, if you believe in it. What if you really believed that your life mattered, that you're not here just breathing breath, that you're not here just for another good grade or another championship or another scholarship or another girlfriend or just to have a good life and get married and have 3 little kids and a white picket fence and go on cool vacations? What if you realized and believed that your life actually mattered for more than that? What if you really believed that your contribution to the church, to your family, to your school is valuable? What if you believed that the things you do and the things that you say, that it's not about you becoming something, it's about you believing that God already is something? What if you believe that God really does, I need you to hear this, what if you really believed that God wanted you to use you to change the world? What if you really believed? How would your life shift if you knew that you knew that you knew deep down inside that you were the one that was going to change the world? What if you truly believed that you could be the one to completely set a fire, a revival in your school? Do you believe it? What if you really believed it? What would change? What would change in the way you treated people? What would change in the words that you say, the things that you do? How would your life be different if you really believed that the Jesus inside of you is big enough for any world problem? Look at your neighbor and say, you need to believe. If you really believed, would you still make excuses about your lack of talent or confidence or resources or time? If you really believed, I just don't have enough time, so use the time that you have. Well, they're so much better than me. Well, use what you're good at. Oh, I'm not that good at much. Well, use the few things that you are good at. Or be mediocre at things and trust God to fill in the gaps. Also known as my life. If you really believed that God was using you to change the world, you'd give everything. You wouldn't make excuses and say, I'm just not enough, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. But you would literally give everything to Jesus and say, look, if you want to use me, I don't have much, but here it is. Bless it, use it, multiply it. I trust you with it. It's exactly what the little boy did. The disciples came and said, look, we got 5,000 hungry people here. What you got? Filet-o fish. I got 5 loaves and I got 2 fish. It's not much, but you can have it. Man, so many times I feel like that little boy. I'm looking at this church. I look at your lives. I look at you every single week. Stand here and I look at you and I go, my gosh, I'm not enough. I'll never be enough for you. I won't be cool enough. I won't be big enough. I won't be able to disciple and love you all enough. I'll fail you. I'll mess up. Your leaders, they can't be enough. Your parents, they can't be enough. Literally every single week I stand up here and I open God's word and I begin to talk to you from my heart because I'm literally saying, God, I'm not much, but here's what I have. If somehow you can use it, because they're looking kind of hangry. They're a little bit scary, a little bit intimidating. Can you use it? My question is, where are you standing? Where are your situations? Where's your world where you're looking around feeling so inadequate, but you're saying, God, I don't know if this really would make a difference, but you can have it if you want it. I really don't know if I can make that big of a difference, but you can have it if you want it. My 5 little loaves and my 2 little fish, it's yours. I'm not that great of a speaker, but I might can encourage somebody. It's not much, but you can have it if you want it. And I don't have a whole lot of time, but I've got a few hours here and there where I could maybe invest, or I could serve, or I could give, or I could love people. I could make sure that when I'm going from one place to another, that I'll do everything I can to be like you, Jesus. It's not a lot, but if you can have it if you want it. I'm not the most popular one there is, and I don't have the most influence, but I do have a circle of friends, and I can try to make sure that I give everything I have to them and help them see the truth of who Jesus is in me. And it's not much, God, but you can have it if you want it. God, I don't have a lot of talent, and I can't sing, and I can't play, and I can't preach, and I can't do this. But what I do have is this, and I have this skill. And maybe you're an artist, or maybe you're just smart, or maybe you're good with people, or maybe you're kind of quiet, but you're really good at connecting with people that seem to be hurting. Maybe you can just kind of feel what other people are feeling. You have compassion. It's like, it's not much, God, but you can have it if you want it. Can you believe God enough to take your 5 loaves and 2 fish? The little boy did, and you know what happened? Jesus took it. He took that little bit. He held it in his hands, and he said, God, bless it. You know what happened? 5,000 people ate lunch that day. How? A miracle. A miracle. God took the little bit that boy offered. He blessed it, he multiplied it, and it went further than he could have ever dreamed that it would. In fact, not only did 5,000 people, the Bible in biblical times, they only counted men, so there were 5,000 men there. That's not counting their wives and all their little children. So here's all these little rugrats running around the McDonald's play place that day. It was crazy. And the dads are eating, the mamas are eating, and the babies are eating, and everybody's getting a good meal. And at the end, there was so much food left over that there were 12 baskets full of food left over from 5 loaves and 2 fish. Why? Because someone was willing to give the little that they had and trust God to make it more than enough for everything. You don't have to be enough. You don't have to work to be enough. You don't have to try to be enough. You don't have to expect to be enough. All you have to do is to believe that Jesus is enough. Can I tell you that there are people that are waiting on your obedience? There are people that are waiting for you to be willing to give the little that you have. There are people desperate for you to stop making excuses. There are people in your school, in your families that you run into every single day, and they're waiting on you to quit making excuses that you don't have enough. There are homeless people, and they're waiting on you to stop making excuses why you can't. There are people that are on the verge of taking their own lives, and they're waiting on you to stop making an excuse about why you can't just say a simple word of encouragement because you're too insecure that someone might not like what you have to say, or that you're too embarrassed. Stop making excuses. There are young mothers that are trying to decide what to do with their babies. And a baby's life is hanging in the balance, and they're waiting on someone to give their little bit that they have. People around the world that are hungry. There's people right here next door that are in lack. There's people that are being abused. People that are addicted. There's people that are lost and bound by sin. And they're waiting on you. They're waiting on you to give your 5 loaves and your 2 fish. Waiting on you to give the little that God has given you and to believe God to be enough. Is the problem big? You better believe it. Are you enough? Nope. Is God? Every single time. Every single time. Hear me tonight. Stop wishing for more. Just use what you have. Stop wishing you had more skills. Stop wishing you had more money. Stop wishing you had a different family. Stop wishing you had a different background. Stop wishing that you had all this other stuff. If I just had this, or if I was like them, or if I looked like that, or if I had their platform, or if I had this, and if I had that, then I would really be able to make a difference for God. But because I'm this, and because I'm this, and because I'm this, then I'm insignificant, and what I have to offer is not good. That is a lie. Stop wishing for more. You have something. Give that something. Give your talent, your time. Take advantage of relationships and opportunities. You have skills. Sometimes it's just a moment. Use that moment. God wants to use it. I love what Ephesians 3 says. It says, now to him who is able to do, look at this, this is beautiful, immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. According to whose power? Come on, somebody. According to whose power? His power that is at work within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. It's saying, look, we don't have that much, but when we trust God and we believe him, we don't have to be it, we can believe it, and we can give it to Jesus, and he is able to do more than we could ever ask or think or imagine. We can't even wrap our mind around how there can be extra, how we can make a difference, how our school can be changed, how that person could come to Jesus, how we could create that nonprofit that does something incredible around the country or around the world. We don't understand how, but we know that God is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask, think, or imagine according to his power. And he gets all the glory and not us, because we didn't have much. We had 5 loaves and 2 fish. He did everything else. God wants to do that in your life. In June 17th, 1873, there was a little country church that had a Sunday school class full of rowdy boys. They had ran off every Sunday school teacher they had. No one wanted to be these boys' Sunday school teacher. They were rowdy. They were probably a lot like some of you. Finally, this man by the name of Edward Kimball decided, I'm going to take this Sunday school class and I'm going to help these boys. I'm going to do everything I can to help these young men. And so Edward Kimball came and he began to spend time teaching the word on Sundays, but he realized quickly, I can't just do this on Sundays. I have to get involved in their life. And so he began to show up to them and talk with them and be a part of their life and become their friend. And there was one in particular that worked at a shoe store. This young boy worked at a shoe store. It was common in the 1800s for people, kids, to have jobs. This one worked at a shoe store, and Edward Kimball went to the shoe store, and he went back into the stockroom and was talking to this boy and began to talk to him about the love of Jesus. This young man gave his life to Jesus. The little boy's name was Dwight. We know him as D.L. Moody, Dwight L. Moody. Dwight L. Moody was one of the most famous preachers, evangelists, teachers of his day. He traveled the world. Even still today, there's a Moody Bible Institute that continues to teach young ministers about the message of the gospel and how to teach and how to preach. Dwight L. Moody began holding revivals. And in one of his meetings, a man by the name of Wilbur Chapman gave his heart to Jesus. Wilbur Chapman was forever changed in that night, and he began preaching as well. And in one of his meetings, a famous Major League Baseball player by the name of Billy Sunday gave his life to Jesus. Billy Sunday was so impacted by the good news of Jesus, he quit Major League Baseball, and he began preaching all across the nation. Using the platform that God had given him for baseball, he began to use that to proclaim the good news of Jesus. So now Billy Sunday begins preaching, and in one of his meetings, there was a man by the name of Mordecai Ham, who was a very smart, intellectual person, and he came and he gave his heart and life to Jesus. And Mordecai Ham became one of the most famous revivalists of our day. He began doing tent meetings. He would go to towns and he would put up tents, and he would preach for weeks at a time, every single night, twice a day. And he was known because he drove a hearse, and on the sides of his hearse, he put big banners to advertise that he was preaching. And so he would drive his hearse through town with like billboards on the side to tell people to come to church that night. And so the people would come to these tent meetings, and they would have church, and like hundreds of people came to know Jesus. And in one of those meetings, there was a 16-year-old boy who had been raised in church, but his heart was hard, and he hadn't really bought into this Jesus thing, and he had come and he knew about it, but he hadn't fully surrendered. But when he saw the fire that Mordecai Ham preached with, and when he felt the conviction of the Holy Spirit, this 16-year-old boy gave his heart to Jesus. That 16-year-old boy's name was Billy Graham. Billy Graham, you should know, Billy Graham is the greatest evangelist that has ever walked this planet other than Jesus Christ. Billy Graham has seen hundreds, literally hundreds of thousands of people give their lives to Jesus because of his preaching, because of his meetings, because of his revivals. He's literally traveled to hundreds of countries all around the world spreading the good news of Jesus. Billy Graham was probably one of the most effective evangelists of our time. He recently passed away. Billy Graham is a famous evangelist who made an enormous difference in our world and in the kingdom of God. But Billy Graham never would have been saved if a guy by the name of Edward Kimball hadn't volunteered years before. He said, I don't have much, but I'll take these rowdy boys in this Sunday school class, and I'll try to do everything I can with them. You see the chain of events, the chain reaction? You never know what your small contribution could eventually explode to be. Because the problem is that we want to try to count the seeds inside of the apple, but we can never count the apples inside of a seed. You can count the seeds inside of an apple, but you never know when you plant that seed, when you give the little bit that you have, what could spring from that. You never know what that word that you speak could mean. You never know what that kind gesture could do. You never know what you just saying yes to Jesus could mean. You could literally change the world with a simple yes to Jesus. Not a yes to God, I have to be this and I have to get my life straight, but to simply say, God, I believe that you are who you say that you are. And even though I am so small and I am so insignificant, and even though my words don't seem like they matter very much, I'll give you the little bit that I have, and I'm asking you to bless it and to use it and to change the world with it. Stand to your feet all across the room tonight. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. Quit trying so hard to be enough or think that you have to become something before God will use you. Just simply believe that Jesus is who he says that he is. With your heads bowed and your eyes closed real quick. Here's the deal. Every single one of you has something to give. You weren't created on accident or just happenstance. You were created because there is a God that loves you, that has a plan for your life, that has orchestrated your life to matter and to mean something. And you may feel like you're just giving a little seed, that you don't have that much. I'm just this young, or I'm just this, or I come from this kind of family. Can I tell you? Give it to God. See what happens with just a simple yes to Jesus. Be the little boy that says, this world looks so big and my school looks so dark. My family is so broken, and I don't know if I can truly make a difference. But I'll commit to give the little bit that I have. And God, if you'll take the little bit that I have and you'll bless it, then I know you can do something great. Hear me tonight. Please hear me. This is my heart. Come on, I'm preaching to you from the very tips of my toes tonight, because I believe this. I believe that God has a plan for your life and that He loves you. And I know what it's like to feel like your voice doesn't matter and that you're insignificant and that you're not enough. But I'm telling you tonight, your simple yes, consistent yes to Jesus will go further than you ever dreamed. And tonight, you can start a chain reaction in this world by simply saying, I don't have much, but the little I have, I'll say yes.